promesso continuiamo a parlare di Google, esaminiamo un po' meglio quello che ci ha detto Fabio Galletto poco fa. Chiamo sul palco di nuovo il nostro grande collaboratore Philip Wolf. E insieme a lui, per la conversazione su tutte le piattaforme di Google, chiamo, sempre dagli Stati Uniti, Dell Ross, che ha fatto moltissime esperienze nella sua carriera. Adesso è il manager di Noctober.
Could we increase the clock to 30? Make it 30 minutes or 25? Okay. Can I change it? Yeah.
35 minutes. Un'ultima cosa, avete visto delle splendide immagini di Firenze? Quel film lì è nei cinema di tutto il mondo. Is in the movies of all the world, that movie about Florence. Go and see it because it's fantastic. Grazie.
Welcome on stage to BTO. Dell, glad to have you. So we just heard an interesting presentation from Google and travel. And I'm reminded last year at the PhoCusWright conference, somebody asked Dara Khosrowshahi, the CEO of Expedia, would you ever participate with Tripadvisor's instant booking? And he looked at the audience and said, no. Same question was asked of Darren Houston, Priceline Group CEO and CEO of Booking.com, and he said no. So hoteliers were happy, and several of the big chains then signed up for Tripadvisor's instant booking. And then a couple of weeks ago, or a month ago or so, Tripadvisor announced a huge partnership with Booking.com. So given that no and never last about a month or a year, what would you project for this audience about where things are going with Google's impressive new travel product tools and other players?
It's a risky question. So we say that
the question's not risky, the answer's risky.
Well, yeah, that's right. But asking me to predict the future when we know that some of the smartest CEOs in the world have failed to do so. To say to anyone, you will never do something that's new on the internet is risky. It's impossible, right? So never can only last about a year. I think that's about right. I think the lesson that I see in this is, of course, never go out and say never. But also understand why these new tools, these disruptors exist. Back in the early 2000s, when I was with IHG building the web business, we were very worried and angry about the OTAs. We didn't like them. We didn't understand why they were there. We wished they weren't there. What we failed to recognize was that they were meeting a need.
That the hoteliers didn't fill.
We were not. They were providing transparency. They were providing a better booking experience than we were offering. We were focused on the guest when they arrived, not how they got there. Well, today, Google has more information than anyone's ever had with the traveler's entire life cycle, not just the traveling portion of that, and they can address those needs more intelligently than anyone who's gone before.
Yeah.
So just as the hotels can't out Expedia, Expedia can't out Google.
Yeah, because I've always explained this. So there's three categories of travel intermediaries now. This is how I say it. We have OTAs that at their roots are transaction-based travel businesses. Then you have meta search, which is blending multiple transaction sites into a new experience. And then general search, like Google, although the definitions are blurry. But search, meta search, OTA, they're still all intermediaries. And suppliers love to hate them, but they're really good at, number one, customer acquisition, and number two, conversion into transactions. So how does this shake out, all this complaining, when they're not as good at those incredibly important skills as they should be, as you said?
Sure. Well, in the hotel world, we would like it very much if the internet would go away and we could go back to people writing letters to get a reservation. That was really nice.
Yeah.
That worked very well for about 2,000 years, right? but I don't think that's going to happen. I think the thing we have to recognize is there is a need that needs to be met. The other thing we learned in the last 10 years is that we are concerned, we don't like these different steps and stages, but customers, they just do what's easy for them. They're responding to these opportunities to book and research in new ways because it provides them with information they need in less time, more conveniently.
So how can travel companies do a better job responding to customer needs so companies like TripAdvisor, Expedia, Booking.com, and Google don't always come in and aggregate 1 million customers a minute?
I think the biggest takeaway for, or the lesson for hoteliers is, and other travel suppliers, is understanding that it's not the first time every time for your customer. Your customer has a life cycle with you and with your competitors that you need to understand. By doing that, you understand incrementality, understanding what it costs to get a new customer, not just to get a booking. A booking is, it may not be very costly at all if you do it right. It could be incredibly costly, but it's irrelevant. What you really want to focus on is that customer coming to you anyway? And if they are, how can you persuade them through nurturing a relationship to book with you in the most economically attractive way?
Yeah. I've often wondered at an event like this, Dell, is a direct booking for a small hotelier that much less expensive than paying for just a booking via distribution?
I think this is a great question. For a new customer, an incremental customer that has never stayed with you before, it's more expensive for an independent hotel to get that customer by themselves than to buy them through an intermediary.
Even though, so don't lose your thought, but even though there's always booking's too expensive and bidding on Google's too expensive.
I think it's far more expensive because they are a pinprick in a universe, a galaxy of stars. They barely exist from the undecided traveler's perspective. So making that star bright enough to attract a visitor is really hard.
So the cost of a new customer direct is more expensive than most people would think it is.
Well, first, they actually don't know what it costs. They have no idea, and that's very important to understand. What does a new customer cost you? But if it's truly a new customer that you would not have, that would stay with your competitor if they didn't stay with you, then you really you should be willing to pay right up to the point of break even for that customer.
Let's poll the audience quickly. Clap if you're a hotelier or an activity provider or a transportation provider, some type of supplier. Clap. Okay. Just those. Clap again if you really know your unit cost of new incremental customers.
New customers.
There you go.
That's what I think.
There
exactly.
you go.
We don't really know, but we can know this. We actually can know this. We don't really, in hotels, good hotel managers look at their arrivals list every day. We see who's coming, and we try to remember, are they members of the loyalty program? Are they a special VIP? But very often we don't look at the life cycle. Have they stayed with us before? Have they stayed in my sister hotels before?
So you're saying the cost of a repeat customer, conversely, is less expensive direct than
be.
Should be.
It should be, but it may not be because we don't pay attention. Look, it's not our fault. All of the hospitality and hotel schools in the world teach you how to serve your guests, how to manage this complex piece of real estate.
Which is why you need intermediaries like Google.
But they don't teach you how to manage booking channels. They don't.
Yeah.
It's now a new thing, and we're catching up, but we have to understand this. We need specialists within a hotel and within the chains who only focus on the booking journey to deliver them to the hotelier who can then provide a service that makes them want to come back and stay again.
So it's interesting. We just heard a Google presentation. Several weeks ago, I saw Oliver Heckman, head of travel product for Google, demonstrate some of their new travel product. It's really, really impressive.
It's very good.
So I wanted to ask this. So I've been on online travel a long time, and Steve Case, the founder of AOL, was one of my mentors before the web and anything. And back then, when he got big, AOL got big, everybody loved to hate AOL. And then they hated Yahoo, and then they hated Google, and then Expedia came along, and everybody hated Expedia, and then Booking.com and TripAdvisor came along, and they love to hate Booking.com and TripAdvisor. But will that ever go away? Like, will there ever be a day where there won't be large intermediaries with significant influence?
I don't know if I want to say, will there ever be a day without, but there will always be disruptors.
If we're sitting
there
here
will
next
be
to-
disruptors,
Yeah.
right? We know this. This is the lesson of the 21st century. You will be disrupted. No one should ever be comfortable. Even Google should not be totally comfortable ever. As soon as they get comfortable, they're in trouble.
Right. So there will be disruption, but is it ever? It's not a specific company, but it seems like big intermediaries come and go. Like all those companies I just named were intermediaries.
That's right.
So like now it seems like most of the focus by the hotel side is on Booking.com, which always changes. But if there's a shift, isn't it more likely it'll go to another big intermediary than a huge shift to supplier control?
Well, we've already seen this. First, we've seen the consolidation of the intermediary space. It already happened for BTA, for business travel agencies. Now for OTAs, there's only two left, right?
And certainly for airlines.
And for airlines, exactly.
Yeah.
If the consolidations happen, there's an important role for these booking intermediaries. But the consolidation's happening, and there's not a lot of new innovation. None of these intermediaries, here's the big thing that we always forget, no intermediary has ever made anyone take a trip, right? We say, you know, hey, have you ever been to Detroit? You should go, right? Intermediaries don't do that, right?
Somebody needs to go to Detroit.
Someone has to go to Detroit, and we say, can we help you book that, right?
Yeah.
So the pie of travel has stayed the same size. There's more slices in the same pie. And so each new intermediary is not adding value to the world of travel, but they exist and they succeed or fail based on their ability to add value to the traveler.
So were you surprised that Starwood and Marriott, Marriott, the largest hotel chain, and Starwood in the top 5, were you surprised they announced a merger?
I was surprised by those two coming together. I think everyone was surprised that it was Marriott that married Starwood, but I'm not surprised that two of the giants have come together. I'll be surprised if no one else does.
Yes. I think that's the beginning of a string.
Yeah.
And how does Marriott and Starwood merging, and likely other hoteliers merging, how does that relate to Google and OTAs? Because they are related.
It's pricing power. So when at IHG in 2004, we stopped using Expedia. It was a big deal. We were the only big hotel company, big supplier to stop.
For how long?
For 4 years.
4 years.
4 years we were off the shelf from Expedia because we couldn't do that. We expected everyone to follow, and no one did.
It's kind of like what Lufthansa's doing, charging for the GDS.
Right.
No one's following.
No one's following, so it can be very lonely to be by yourself, but we managed, but we came back. We always wish, though. And the other suppliers would say, I really wanted to, but it was just so scary. So now we've got this big giant, that controls 20% of the branded hotel inventory in the world. It's really big. They should be able to stay strong. They should be able to say, here's the price we'll pay.
Size matters.
Size matters.
So a lot of people were surprised when they asked me. I said, the number one reason Marriott and Starwood merged was to combat OTAs and Booking.com in particular. And a lot of people said, really, is that? And I said, that's what I think. I was curious what you think.
It is a major factor. The other factor is the global footprint. Because today's world is full of global travelers. I mean, how many, clap here if you traveled here from outside of Italy. Substantial. Yeah. So a conference like this 10 years ago would have been a national audience only. Now it's a global audience. And that's true for the global traveler. The world's become smaller. So it's important that you have systems and brands and loyalty programs that span the globe to give options for all. And we haven't even talked about corporate travel. The giant corporate entities that account for 40% of all hotel business
American
worldwide.
Express, CWT.
They don't want to negotiate with small chains or individual hotels. They want to negotiate with thousands of hotels at a time.
So, Dell, you saw the recent new Google travel product demonstration.
Yes.
Can you share, would you please share with the audience something you saw in that presentation that was innovative and impressive?
Well, I think that the way that they're able to distill intent, we saw this in Fabio's slides earlier, this focus on intent. They have a better ability to understand why you are traveling than anyone else. The rest of us just know historically that you need a place to stay, you need a flight, you need a car. We didn't know why. Yeah. They know where you've come from, and they anticipate this with the content that they serve, the information about the destinations that if you've decided, they already know, and they've already curated this content to help you make a decision. Or if you haven't decided, they know the kind of places people like you would like to go. Amazing.
And even though industry folks are skeptical about those personalization techniques, travelers really like that stuff.
They love it. I'm a big fan I fear Google, as all business people should, but as a consumer, I love Google. And I use Google now on my phone. So I booked this trip a long time ago, and for the last several weeks, I've been getting ads on Google for things to do and places to see and things to buy in Florence, because it knows my itinerary. And I don't object. This is great. I want to enjoy this beautiful city, and it's giving me the opportunity to curate offers that it knows I will like, because people like me have bought them, have experienced them, and rated them highly. Yeah. Not just that they're paying a lot of money to advertise, but it's actually going to be a good experience.
It reminds me many years ago when I would book through a travel agency to leave the United States, back in the days when they mailed tickets. I'm dating myself. What only one travel agency I ever met, and I met thousands of them, when they mailed the ticket, they also mailed an immigration card. Brilliant. And filled in your name, address, flight number, like 7 out of the 11 essential data fields. And I said, anybody that understands that will always adapt, but most people don't. Still today, they'll whine and complain instead of ask themselves, what can I do to get a little closer to my customers or attract a new one?
That's right. Well, we train in the hospitality world, we train our staff to ask the question, have you been with us before? Have you stayed with us? Have you eaten here before? That's a terrible question. We should know. We should know. And we need to, and we could say, the last time you were here, you enjoyed this beautiful pasta dish. We have a new specialty we think you would like. That would matter so much. Or, oh, you have a gluten allergy. No gluten for you. Well, we have this really delicious dish that's made with vegetables, right? I mean, this would be incredible.
So here's another. Clap again if you're a hotelier. Okay. If a customer calls your hotel and you're booked, you can't make a reservation for them, how many of you still take their name and get them in your database?
This is for those.
So why do you complain about Google? Who wants to volunteer then? And Booking.com. When they invest to know, and customers like it, and you have a free prospect, and you say, sorry, I'm booked.
So there you go.
We've got to go to the next question.
Yeah, how can we complain about that, right? Because they do this. To Google, we are not just the query or the search we're doing right now. We are our life of clicks. Everything we do. It's not even when we're on Google. So many companies now use Google Analytics, so they're able to see everything that we do. And we think we mind, but we really don't, because they make our lives better because of use of this data.
So I wanted to talk about, because Google and travel, there's this expression called an IT stack, an information technology stack of technical tools and platforms and layers. We don't need to be too technical. It's just called an IT stack. And there's a tourism and hospitality IT stack.
Right.
And there seems to be a consolidation happening that. By that I mean Accor recently acquired Fast Booking. That was mostly in response to Booking.com buying Boutique and Hotel Ninjas and
Price
launching
Match and
Booking
others,
Suite,
right, yeah.
right? And Trust International was just acquired by Sabre, and I could predict a few more, but there's also consolidation in this IT stack. So could you explain why that matters in very simple language to this
Sure.
audience?
Another insight that's driving the industry today is this idea that you can't do everything exceptionally well. You can't be better at than everyone at everything. So the lesson is only do what only you can do, which means things that used to be the sacred cows, like for hotels, the central reservation system, you had to have your own. Well, now you have to have one, but having your own might mean it's not very good. So IHG is hiring Amadeus to build their central reservation system. That's a big deal.
So would you say, if I'm an independent hotelier or a small group, the risk of using homemade tools, the risks incurred by using homemade tools, things you do yourself, the risks are getting greater and greater over time?
If it's something that's available and you can't be the best at it, and it doesn't make you distinct in the eyes of your customer, distinct and valuable, don't do it. It's a distraction.
So what are some,
Buy it.
Del,
Buy
what
it.
are some examples of
Well,
that?
let's look at the systems we use to track guests in the hotel. Service, right? There's many hotels I know that have their own system of recording requests and keeping track of things like, when was that room cleaned? Did we send extra towels here? They track it on Excel. They track it in email.
Yeah.
It's silly. Why? They're really good tools. They're cheap. They're available. Go buy one and don't be focused on maintaining a system that you built yourself.
A lot of these are inexpensive, and some of them are actually free because of data collection.
That's right.
Whereas I hear a lot of industry players say, I can't use that tool and I can't go on this because it's too expensive. It's really an excuse, isn't it?
Time
Mostly?
costs money, right? And that's the thing we have to remember. That time we're spending on managing the system that dispatches our housekeepers, that we wrote ourselves, updating their own spreadsheet, we could have spent that time updating the content on our websites or translating the content into different languages to attract new customers.
Here's another version. A lot of hotels spend money on putting key cards in and updating the key card technology.
Yeah.
But only once I'm probably in a hotel 150 nights a year for 30 years, right? Only once have I ever gotten my key card, gone to the elevator, those elevators that make the customer put it in. I stick it in, and then it asks me to press the floor.
Yeah.
Even though on the card is information that says what room I'm in and therefore what floor I'm in.
Right.
And all these things that are
Linking
strange
together
to
that
customers.
experience. Right.
Yeah.
We don't think through how can we make this a consistent experience that's logical. That if I have these cards now with the chip in them, well, that chip at Disney World they do this now. That chip identifies you throughout the Disney experience. You can use it to pay. They can personalize your experience, and done well, that can enhance the stay and make you feel special. Now, your expectation is, why do I have to put my floor in? It's on the card.
Yeah, and another one is, when I go to check out, hoteliers are trained, good morning, did you have a nice day? But when we get to that magic moment, more times than not, I'm asked, what room number are you in? When you go to check out, and I always answer, Philip Wolf. And you go, oh, hold on one moment, Philip Wolf. Okay, room 750.
Right.
So my argument is these little things to make you more sensitive about customer needs are related to the ugly Google Booking.com issue, because those companies invest a lot of money knowing analyzing, predicting, and anticipating. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Look, the tradition of hospitality is rooted in the inn, the small innkeeper. When you stay with him while you're traveling, you're a guest in his home. That's what he does for a living, but you're a guest in his home. We've forgotten this, and we need to remember this, because if we treat people like they're anonymous to us, they have no name, they're not an individual, they're just saying, then we become the commodity we fear that we will become, right? And that's when we really fall prey to the risks of intermediation, because they don't care if we have personality, they don't care if we are that experienced, they only care if the customers like us and if they can make money. We have to care more.
So
The experts, they have a lot of questions.
Questions, okay?
the questions are easy, but the answers are not so easy.
Okay, let's start with Alessio. Yes? Question?
May I? Okay.
Ready?
You hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Hi. I don't think you can see me, but I'm here. My question will be this one. It will be about storytelling and marketing in a certain way. So we've been talking about system integrators, disintermediation, micro moments, and making decisions faster and faster. So my question will be, in this scenario, is still there room for storytelling, specifically for the little hotel, the independent hotel? I mean, we've been talking for some years about the importance of storytelling and building a story about ourselves and what we are selling, the service we are, what makes the difference with us. Now everything is getting faster and faster, and we have been disintermediated in some way. I mean, the independent hotels and so on. Is there?
I have one piece of that. I'll give it to Dell.
Yep. You're
You
welcome.
have to remember there's at least two zones. One is you have to acquire a customer. And then once they are visiting, say, your property or your destination, then you can tell stories and romance and all these great things. But it's very difficult to be superb at acquisition and conversion and storytelling. So yes, storytelling's as important as ever, but you need somebody to tell the story to, and they have to come at a right price.
But this means also that at the beginning it's just about price or what?
No, see, so here's where I think.
Thank you.
Storytelling is important, but not telling stories, right? Your customer, here's a big thing. Your customer does not care about you. They don't care. They care about themselves. They care about their needs. They will hear a story if the story helps them. So here's the story you need to be able to tell. What need, what requirement, what experience do you deliver better than anyone else when they're looking for that? And then if it's really true, tell that story. Say, if you're looking for a hotel in Florence which is closest to the attractions and has the best service and is quiet at night, this is the hotel for you. If you're looking for other reasons, we could also be good. But if you're looking for that, stay here. That's a story they like to hear, and then deliver that story through the experience. That's the way storytelling really works. You have to know your story there. Being a hotel and we do everything, well, if you do everything, then you're not best for any one thing. And I'm here for one thing, not for everything.
It's for sure that the OTAs and Tripadvisor and probably Google do a fantastic job at user interface and all of that stuff. I think that the independent hotels of the last 5 years have been doing a good job here in Europe, building great websites, having mobile applications, having booking engine technologies, having digital marketing services. They've been doing a good job. The problem is that when you look at the value of Tripadvisor and Expedia and the money they throw at buying traffic, that for one thing. Second thing, you look at Booking now, understanding the importance of direct booking and launching, their booking suite and driving, saying to hotels, we'll help you drop more booking. You look at Tripadvisor now, where we had the ability to buy traffic, to have more digital marketing initiatives to get to the hotel. Now we have instant booking. So the issue for the hotel is that they're also fighting with these people who have billions, so it's quite difficult to be able to compete. And now with Google, again, launching the instant booking on Google, it's educating the market to book via third parties as opposed to booking direct. Would you subscribe to that or not?
I think that the instant booking and book on Google is a gift to independent hotels because they have the same ability to compete for that customer, that free choice customer, at the time of decision that they would have with the same choices or choices on Expedia. I mean, they're in a wonderful position to be able to spend what they're going to spend to acquire a customer, but sit side by side, as opposed to having to cede the search battle to the OTA and then buying the customer from the OTA. They're in a wonderful position, I think.
This idea that it's getting more difficult to compete is crazy.
Yeah.
Go back 20 years and let me know how anybody would ever find your activity or your service or your hospitality. So it's easier than ever to find you, but it's also easier than ever to find everybody else. And but that's what competition is.
Yeah, so
But we don't know what sort of deal, for example, Expedia will have with Google, and we don't know what sort of deal, Priceline had with TripAdvisor. So, hotels are at disadvantage, I think, in terms of how much commission is being paid.
So far, I will tell you a story. We were at one point at IHG Google's 8th biggest advertiser in the world. 8th biggest advertiser, 8th biggest source of revenues. And we had a dispute with them. We wanted something special. They said no. So we decided we're going to show them and we're going to stop all advertising. And we did for 3 weeks. No advertising on Google. Their 8th biggest customer did nothing.
Did they notice?
We didn't hear anything. Finally talked to the rep and he said, "How is everything?" I said, "You didn't see?" And he said, "No, what?" He goes, "Yeah, we haven't bought anything from you for 3 weeks." He goes, "Oh,
sure
that's
they
funny."
do.
Didn't notice. They don't care. They're not going to give, no one's going to get a special deal because they're there. The reason that they would like to have an OTA is because it gives them instant access to a lot of inventory and it paves the way. But they're open. Anyone can come in. And actually what I really admire about Google is they are ruthless in advocating for the customer. If it's better for the customer, they do it. If it's better for Google, but not good for the customer, actually most of the time they favor the customer.
And the other thing you have to remember, Google is free to customers.
Yeah.
So if they do anything customers don't like, the traffic will go down. So it's, how much cheaper can it be than free to a customer?
Yeah. So I think
it has to be better.
I think that OTAs are going to be strongly disadvantaged if the content and the storytelling that is the capability, unique capability of the supplier of the hotel is taken care of. And that's true for other travel providers as well. They have the ability to provide the primary source of content that the OTAs just can't.
We have other...
Yes. Yes, I'm thinking about the merger between Marriott and Starwood. We all say that in the future we will be all connected, so even the hotel chains. So do you think then when the hotel chains fill the gap, the digital gap, could have more power than OTA because they are the owner of the hotels?
Did you catch that?
Yeah, if I understand the question is asking, does the combination of the suppliers give them the ability to turn the tables on the OTAs a bit? And I think, yes, we were saying before that scale matters in negotiations, but the issue is that with Book on Google and even TripAdvisor's instant booking, they're just shifting concerns to a new party, right? Having the ability to negotiate better is good, but in a free market, you pay what you have to pay. You're paying for the customer, the price of the customer is set by the market, not by the size of the buyer.
Yeah.
Martin, abbiamo anche la possibilità di fare una o due domande dal pubblico. Tirate sulle le mani se volete fare una domanda. Martin.
Yeah, just thinking, there's a lot of conversation about TripAdvisor and Expedia and booking, blah, 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 but some big players, really big players, just entering the hotel distribution sector. I mean, you mentioned IHG and Amadeus, you mentioned Sabre and Trust International, there's Oracle out there that spent $5 billion on Micros. So, I mean, you've got some really big travel tech companies that are about to enter the sector. How do you think that's going to play out in terms of the OTA virtual dominance of the market? I mean, is there any connects there?
I heard at dinner last night that big hotel was frustrated with Micros' service, and then Oracle bought it, and it got worse. So That's one anecdote. But I've heard good things. SAP bought Concur, which is the leading travel technology in managed
Corporate
travel.
Yeah.
I think you will see these small tech companies lost in the IT stack. They will either go out of business or be consolidated. That's my prediction, because it's too expensive to run small IT companies to have a very, very tiny share. But it depends on the big company. Sometimes it gets better, sometimes it gets worse. I don't think there's a general answer to that one.
I'm reminded of a story. My friend used to work for Microsoft and had frequent meetings with Bill Gates. And he introduced a television producer who had just sold his studio for $300 million. And he told the story to Bill Gates, and Bill Gates, in the way that only the wealthiest person in the world can do, he says, 300 million? How nice for you. How nice for you. There's big. So IHG is a big company. It's $8 billion company. Marriott, $12 billion. Starwood, $13 billion. That's big. And then there's Google big, right? There's Google big, and that's another universe.
Order of magnitude.
It's a different planet. Yeah, it matters, and I think these companies all have an opportunity to make a difference, but if they try to go straight after the biggest and the baddest, they're probably going to get squashed. Instead, the winning strategy is get good at only what they can get good at, right?
Here's
Find a niche that they serve.
thought. It's just as easy for a startup to come out with an innovative new solution and get big than for a big company to do it. It has nothing to do, people say it's size. You're small, you're nimble, but you don't have cash. You're big, you're less nimble, but you have cash. Neither is advantaged. It's just the people and the ideas and the execution on a new solution for customers.
That's right.
Signore e signori, ringraziamo Philip Wolf and Dell Ross. Well done. Well done, really well done. Yes.